Federal Drive is presented by GEHA, Government Employees Health Association, proudly providing health and dental benefits to federal employees and their families. Visit GEHA.com.
Turbulence and disruption around public sector IT operations are the norm. A new report from Infotech suggests 4 things that CIOs can do now to turn that disruption into momentum for their teams and their constituents. Here with the details is the research director for Infotech's Canadian public sector practice, Andy Best. Mr. Best, thank you for joining me.
Thanks so much for having me.
You've got a really interesting article out. It lays out a 4-step framework for public sector CIOs to lead through disruption. No shortage of disruption these days. Can you walk us through the 4 parts of the framework?
Yeah, absolutely I can. Thanks for the question. So you're absolutely correct, Terry, that turbulence is the new normal that public sector CIOs are experiencing. There's significant pressure on resource, on staffing, and generally speaking, what we're seeing is that government IT leaders are being tasked with doing a lot more with a lot less. And there's been significant leadership transitions and fiscal instabilities that can disrupt the ability to deliver on top IT modernization priorities, and which can also, if not strategically navigated, reduce the influence of IT leaders within their organizations. So our product from Infotech, we support thousands of government technology leaders around the world with products that are aimed to give them practical outcome-based strategies that they can apply. One of these is the one that you highlighted, which is to hold the line on driving government IT forward. Key challenges that we're seeing, having to balance operational expenditures versus capital expenditures. Basically, what that means is that they need to, there's significant pressure on operational expenditures like staffing, a lot of reductions there. And some of those dollars are being moved into capital expenditures, which is more like long-term investments in infrastructure, servers, other forms of tech infrastructure. And part of the challenge there is that they need to maintain balance between those things. We're seeing a overemphasis on cuts towards OpEx right now, but you do want to invest in the future, but you also have to keep the lights on for current services. So that is an absolutely critical theme in the work. We're also seeing artificial intelligence and the exponential impact of IT changes hitting organizations really hard. So public sector leaders need to learn to adopt AI responsibly, govern it effectively, and prepare their workforces for that change. They're navigating significant cybersecurity and risk scenarios. Public sector IT leaders need practical frameworks to safeguard their data, meet rapidly changing regulations, and to build resilience in their organizations against evolving technology threats. So, we think that proactive leadership is the strategy to help hold the line in the face of change, inaction on the part of public sector technology leaders. It's going to delay modernization, it's going to disrupt services, and it's going to weaken the influence of IT within the organization. So one of our top Infotech recommendations, and this is based on data from our thousands of members around the world and all the products that we produce to help CIOs navigate these kinds of things, is that they can't wait for top-down direction. They need to use strategic foresight to scan those risks to their business and to take small adaptive steps to keep moving in the face of that disruption and not wait for direction to come down from the top. So our kind of top messages for IT leaders right now to navigate this period of significant tumult and research constraints is to ensure that they're balancing operations and modernization efforts. So not sacrificing, investing in the future significantly, of course, but not sacrificing their ability to do their jobs today and keep core services running. They need to do more with less. There's a significant pressure there. So, they need to modernize with significant fewer resources than they had before on staff and the funding side. And so they need to, even under those constraints, they need to maintain forward motion, small pilots, automation efforts, leveraging AI responsibly, or investing in service redesign are a good way for IT leaders to demonstrate constant progress and to build influence within the organization and to build trust with new leadership, which is difficult to do. They don't want to wait for direction. They need to frame how IT can enable the business goals and the political goals as well before assumptions about IT's role or the role of the CIO harden amongst new leadership. So we really do recommend that CIOs be a strategic partner to leadership and within their organization, and not a support function.
I'm speaking with Andy Best. He's the research director for Infotech's Canadian public sector practice. I appreciate the detail there, but I want to go back to one of the first things you said up front, which is that CIOs can't wait for top-down direction. That is sometimes a hard pill to swallow in the public sector, where you really think about yourself as there to do the leaders, to execute the leader's plan. So how do you help CIOs think about and reframe their process so that they really are driving the innovation at the same time as you say that they can gain trust by acting early? So how do you help them reconcile some of those things that may feel very odd to them?
That's an excellent question. Part of the goal of Infotech's products is to, help them balance modernization and grow resilience with realistic strategies that are aligned to the resources that are available to them. So, I'm a research director, but one of our philosophies is we don't just do research to sit on the shelf. We do it to spark action and to help our public sector IT members move the needle forward. So in terms of acting before you're forced to act, you need to be scanning the policy signals that are coming from new leadership. Pay very close attention to political shifts, both on the government level, but within your organization as well. And seek to mitigate operational risks early, because, it's a question of you're going to be a maker of plans or a taker of plans, right? And as a CIO, you do have the strongest, grasp of the technological needs of your organization. And so the question is, how can you be the most effective CIO in the face of significant turbulence? The best way to navigate disruption is to stay ahead of it. Change is going to be constant. I said at the beginning, turbulence is the new normal, right? There's leadership shifts, fiscal pressure, rising expectations from citizens and residents for services that will, be up 100% of the time and never come down on the part of government. And then, the risk and blame often does fall back onto technology leaders when government services do go down. So waiting is allowing risk to accumulate to your portfolio. And so, part of what we advocate for at Infotech is to, protect those essential services while making measured and practical progress on modernization, and positioning your IT investment strategy as a solution to the new normal, right? There are significant challenges around finding resources, allocating resources to modernization. Public sector IT leaders should show that smart choices around modernization can actually help directly address the pressures that they're facing and build long-term resilience in public sector organizations. So it's about being a proactive partner in the new normal, as opposed to waiting for somebody else who probably has a different agenda and might not understand your business or the technology needs of your organization, rather than waiting for them to define your path for you.
You have pulled the thread of turbulence kind of through there, and I want to pick it up again, because one of the other things you say is that public sector CIOs can't wait for things to settle. They've got to keep moving forward while there's all of this uncertainty and turbulence around them. And certainly there's political turbulence, changes in policy or priorities, but there's also so much tech turbulence and rapid pace of change. How do they decide how to move forward when the next best thing might be only 6 months away?
Well, you're absolutely correct. 10 years ago, it would have been moving to the cloud. Today, it's responsible AI. Tomorrow, it's going to be quantum. And then, 5 years from now, there will be more and more and more. And that train will continue to move always in perpetuity. We need to help. We need to build a public sector capacity to navigate that change, to prepare their workforces for change, to govern technology effectively, whatever technology that might be, to build the capacity. Cybersecurity needs are not going to change. The technology considerations around them will. So we need to have strong governance and practical frameworks for safeguarding data, for meeting regulations, and for building resilience against those evolving threats, because they will continue to evolve. CIOs and IT leaders have to be equipped to strengthen their own influence, to ensure that they maintain relevance as a strategic partner within the organization. So, part of what we try to do is support public sector agencies, with modernization, with procurement work, with helping to digitize citizen services in a, cost conscious, very high compliance and kind of high turbulence environment.
Would you say that these recommendations apply beyond the CIO community? Are they equally applicable to other folks who are leading through turbulence?
Yeah, I would say so. I think it's a great question. I think as a leader, you need to be proactive, right? That's a strategy. You need to be very politically acute. Inaction can cause delays and disruptions and can weaken your influence. You definitely want to be setting your own agenda instead of having someone set it for you. You need to act early to build trust. Trust has a political dimension. So being perceived as credible by political leaders and by leaders within your organization, it matters just as much as having the right plan from a technology standpoint, because it's all well and good to have a great plan, but if you can't action it by building the relationships required, across your organization and up to the political level, then you won't be as successful as a public sector technology leader. So I absolutely think that there's lessons here that can be applied to leadership more broadly. Our expertise is in working with IT leaders worldwide, right? And so we do see these challenges across the public sector. And yeah, it's a challenging time for leaders everywhere, especially in the technology space.
I've been speaking with Andy Best. He's the Research Director for Infotech's Canadian Public Sector Practice. Thanks for joining me and thanks for sharing the framework with us.
Thanks so much for your time.
We'll post this interview at federalnewsnetwork.com/Federal Drive. Listen to the Federal Drive on your schedule. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.